Director's Log. Stardate, July 2026. I'm the Biz, and this is a hopefully very quick Director's Log for part 2 of my Trek of the Metrons project. Part 1 I put out in May. You can see it here on the screen. Has the Metrons band playing some rock and roll for the denizens of the Star Trek Enterprise. I've been working on part 2 for the last couple months, and I've recently reached a hurdle, or I've gotten past a roadblock for a very difficult scene, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. Figured I'd go ahead and put out a quick director's log, which goes into some of the characters which you might see in part 2. Part 2 takes place at a place called the Rave Cave. Has a lot of characters you may recognize from episodes of Star Trek, the original series. Not specific characters, but species, perhaps. So let's take a quick look. I'll go through them now. This first one is a little more generic. These are just generic, sexy lizard women. They happen to be in a lot of different Star Trek series. They're not specific to any particular race of aliens, but they are general lizard women. Here are two characters. They both have big parts in part 2. The man with the horns, he, in this episode, has a cigar that plays a very important part, and the woman with the purple hair, she will be drinking a warp core breach. Which also plays an important part in the Rave Cave. Okay, so now we reach some of these characters which you may recognize. They don't have speaking parts, but they are part of the crowd. These are the Talosians. You may recognize the Talosians, I believe, from the pilot for Star Trek, the original series. They have captured, I believe, Captain Pike, and they're making his dreams come true. Later on, Spock hijacks Captain Pike, brings him back to the Talosians to live out the end of his days. But these are the Talosians, 2 of them anyway. They can read your mind. They can speak to each other with their minds, which is why their heads are so big.
You overlook the unpleasant alternative of punishment.
Okay, next creature you may see in episode 2 of Trek of the Metrons. These are the Andolorians. I made them out to be club kids, hipsters, rave kids. You can see I modeled the antennas for their heads. In this episode, none of them are assassins. Fake Andorians, so the antennas will stay put. None of the antennas will fall off their heads, but they are basically club kids that are at the Rave Cave to see a fight. And they are there to see some rock and roll. And they are successful in doing that. Next character. These are Vulcans. They are punk rock Vulcans in the style of punk rockers from perhaps the late 90s or late 80s, I guess. 2 characters, you can tell they're Vulcans because they have pointy ears.
Yes, that's quite true.
I'm trying to thank you, you pointed-eared hobgoblin.
They're involved in a big conversation right now about who was the better punk rocker. Moving on, here we have the Orions. The Orion, you may remember the green girl from the exit credits from the original series. The woman on the left, she's more the traditional-looking garbed Orion. The 2 on the right, they are more punk rockers from the late 90s. And they are residents of the Rave Cave in part 2 of Trek of the Metrons. Here we have 2 android women. They are from the I, Mudd episode where Harry Mudd is kind of the ruler of are they a species of a planet of androids? All the women all look the same. They were all dressed up as like 60s hippies or 60s, I don't know, flower girls of some sort.
You enjoy the music?
Music? Music?
These two, one of them actually gets a speaking part. So you will see either 369 or 371 in part 2 of Trek of the Metrons. Keep your eyes out. Here we have two gangsters, which are hanging out in the Rave Cave. They are the gangsters from the episode A Piece of the Action, where somebody from the Federation accidentally left some information on gangsters, and it changed the whole history of the planet. The whole planet was gaga over gangsters. Kirk had to convince them in gangster fashion why they needed to listen to him, and I think in the end they ended up leaving a phaser behind or something.
Nobody's gonna put the bag on me anymore.
But yeah, two gangsters that are in the Rave Cave. Here we have the Gorn. Male Gorn on the left, the female Gorn on the right, and then in the middle here, we have a primary character in this episode. His name is Mr. Gorgeous. So keep an eye out. Mr. Gorgeous coming to you soon in part 2 of Trek of the Metrons. And then finally, these are the proprietors of the Rave Cave. Up front, we have Smiles. He has an awesome voice actor.
You get death. Now fight.
Who's doing his work. Behind him is his wife. She works the bar. And then two guys who are the muscle at the Rave Cave. The smaller guy is the inside muscle. The big giant behind him is the outside guy. So there you go. A lot of characters that you are likely to see in part 2 of Trek of the Metrons, coming probably in, I would guess, the end of August. So keep your eyes out. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's coming along very well. Okay. The Biz out.